The marketplace of Zarthen Station buzzed with 1,000 different species, bartering, arguing, and existing in the careful neutrality that kept the border worlds functional. John Martinez walked through the crowd with his usual easy stride, hands in the pockets of his worn jacket, eyes taking in the exotic sights that never quite stopped being fascinating, even after 3 years of living among the stars. He was nobody special. A human mechanic who'd left Earth looking for adventure and found mostly grease stains and long shifts keeping junker ships spaceworthy. But that ordinariness was about to end. The scream cut through the market noise like a blade. John's head snapped toward the sound. Through the crowd, he spotted them, 3 Kresh warriors, their segmented armor gleaming, surrounding a small Valorian child. The species were at war, had been for decades, and this station's neutrality apparently meant nothing to these soldiers. The child couldn't have been more than 8 in human years, her opalescent skin shimmering with fear, her large eyes wide with terror. One of the Kresh raised a serrated blade. John didn't think. Thinking was for people who had time, and that child had seconds. He launched himself through the crowd, shoving aside a startled merchant, his boots pounding against the metal deck. He reached the circle just as the blade began its descent and threw himself between the warrior and the child, his body becoming a shield of flesh and bone. The first stab punched through his shoulder. The pain was immediate, electric, stealing his breath, but John had played football in high school, had worked construction, had learned that the body could take more than the mind believed possible. He wrapped his arms around the small Valorian child and curled his body around hers. The second stab, the third, the fourth. Each one was a new lesson in agony, but John's jaw was set. The child's small hands clutched at his shirt, her crystalline tears wetting his chest. She was shaking, terrified, and somehow that made it easier to endure. "Close your eyes, kiddo," John gasped in broken Valorian, one of the few phrases he'd learned. "It'll be okay." The Kresh warriors were methodical, almost professional in their brutality. They weren't raging, they were executing a target with cold efficiency, which meant every stab was calculated, meant to cause maximum damage. 5, 6, 7. The crowd had scattered. Station security would come eventually, but eventually might be too late. John could feel his body weakening, blood pooling beneath him. His vision was starting to tunnel. 8, 9, 10. Somewhere in the darkness creeping at the edges of his consciousness, John heard his mother's voice from years ago. "Johnny, you've always had too big a heart for your own good." Maybe she was right. But what kind of person could stand by and watch a child die? 11, 12, 13. The child was crying, her small voice speaking words he couldn't understand through the roaring in his ears. John tried to smile, though he wasn't sure his face was cooperating anymore. 14, 15, 16. The pain was distant now, a dull thunder rather than lightning. That probably wasn't good. But the child was alive. He could feel her heartbeat against his chest, rapid, terrified, but beating. 17, 18. The blade withdrew for the last time, and John heard the heavy footfalls of the Kresh warriors retreating. Mission accomplished, apparently. The human shield was no longer moving. John's last conscious thought was hope that someone would take care of the kid. Waking up was unexpected. John's eyes opened to soft light and the medicinal smell of an advanced med bay. His body felt strange, not painful, but not quite right either, like he was wearing someone else's skin. "He wakes." The voice was measured, resonant. John turned his head and froze. Kneeling beside his medical pod was a figure in armor that made the Kresh warriors' equipment look like children's toys. The metal was a deep midnight blue, etched with glowing symbols, and the being wearing it had the bearing of someone who'd commanded armies. Beyond her, the room was filled with others, dozens of them, all in similar armor, all kneeling. "What?" John's voice was rough, unused. "I am Elsa Vorthal, Supreme Commander of the Valorian Elite Guard," the woman said, her accent thick, but her English perfect. "You saved my daughter, John Martinez." The pieces clicked together slowly. The child, Valorian, Elite Guard. "Is she alive and unharmed thanks to you?" Elsa's expression was fierce, proud. "You took 18 stabs. The medical team said any one of them should have been fatal. They said a human body couldn't survive such trauma." "Guess I'm stubborn," John managed. "You are extraordinary." Elsa rose to her feet, and the others followed in perfect synchronization. "In Valorian culture, a life debt is sacred. You saved not just any child, but the heir to the stellar throne. What you did defies logic, placing yourself between trained killers and their target, absorbing wounds that would drop a warrior in armor." She placed her fist over her heart. "Humanity has been dismissed by the galaxy as weak, soft, lacking the physical advantages of other species. But they do not understand what we learn today, that your strength isn't in your bodies, it's in your impossible, irrational, magnificent courage." John tried to sit up, and Elsa moved forward, helping him. Her hand was gentle, despite the armor. "The Valorian people wish to honor you," she continued. "My daughter speaks of you as the man who became a wall. Our artists are already composing songs, our poets are crafting verses. But more than that," she gestured to the assembled warriors, "these soldiers, the finest fighters in our empire, have asked to learn from you." "Learn what?" "How to get stabbed." John's attempt at humor was weak, but Elsa smiled. "How to be human," she said simply. "How to possess courage so absolute that death becomes irrelevant. How to see a stranger's child and choose pain over safety." She leaned closer, her eyes intense. "The galaxy fears Valorian warriors because we are skilled. But after today, they will fear humans because you are fearless. And John Martinez," her voice dropped, carrying the weight of an oath, "the Valorian Empire will never forget what you did. Neither will I." John looked at the rows of elite warriors, still kneeling, waiting. He thought about the child's heartbeat against his chest, the warmth of her tears. "I just did what anyone would do," he said. "No," Elsa replied, her smile sad and knowing. "You did what only a human would do. And that, John Martinez, is why you terrify us all." End.